Boom, we're live. All right, guys. So if you're in the tech industry, you might have already kind of noticed this. And let me retract on that real bit. If you're in the tech industry or you're trying to get into the tech industry, probably especially if you're a younger person, let's say like 17, 18, 19. What if even you're a fresh college graduate? You probably already noticed the things that I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway for those who don't know. There seems to be something a little sus going on in the tech industry right now. And honestly, the job market as a whole, I would say, Cody. But what exactly is going on right now that is aforementioned sus thing? EagleCloud says it's over 9,000. Yes, it is. It's over 9,000 applicants for one job. Cody, so, okay, do you remember the stream I did? Showed all those screenshots from the job postings with like thousands of applicants for these developer positions.
I do. And then even seen them myself. So
yeah, it's been pretty bad, right?
Yeah, it's over.
I wonder if it's over, if like the job market part is over, or if coding is over. And that, guys, is what we're actually here to discuss tonight. Is it over for coding? Is the whole learn to code thing, is it now really just a meme? Is it even a meme anymore? Is it just a meme in the trash can? I don't even know, because back in about 2019, 2020, it seemed like everyone and their moms was trying to learn to code. And a lot of people had the hopes of landing a job as like a software engineer, a software developer, or some kind of job in tech in general for a couple reasons. Now, why did everyone want to do this? Cody, I'm gonna list a couple things that people that, for example, people that would sign up to the DD in 2019, 2020. Why, when I would ask people, why do you want to learn how to code? High pay with good salary increases that seemed to have gone alongside of inflation, right? I think statistics were like software developers and software engineers had like one of the only inflation, quote unquote, inflation resistant jobs, which I don't know. That could be kind of like a little bit of kind of a sus statistic, but I actually did a stream about that maybe like 2 years ago. But I would say pay, number one, right? Remote work, which back in 2019, 2020, almost everyone wanted to be a remote worker, right? And we know why. And even normal people were forced to be remote at that time. Flexibility, because a lot of these kind of programming jobs, like even if it is a quote unquote 9 to 5, people could, let's say, do whatever work that needed to be done in the day. Let's say you get up at 8, you work from 8 to 12, and then after that you can kind of like fuck off, answer emails, make sure nothing's blowing up. Not every place that's going to employ people is going to be like that, but a lot of them are. Job security, and at the time, job security, right? I don't know so much so anymore, but that's what pretty much everyone that I would ask, that's what they would say. Do you think I missed anything, Cody?
Yeah, I think that's it. Greater work-life balance, I guess, depending on where you're at. I rode the wave into IT too. So I just started in 2020. So like I'm still fairly new to this job field. So I rode that initial wave into IT, and kind of just watched it explode from the inside, I guess. Then same reasons, I was working slave jobs before,
Yeah.
But
and well, you're a good example, because like what I was going to say is with enough like hard work and persistence, people were pulling off getting a job in like a high paying job as like a developer, an engineer, even something similar to what you do, without even having a computer science degree, right? And I think that I can't believe I didn't mention. I think that's probably one of the most appealing things to people. A lot of people were like working as like servers in a restaurant and stuff, and they just wanted to do better in life. And it seemed that the whole learn to code thing like presented a way out of whatever a lot of people were doing, right? I mean, I think this was in 2022, 2021, 20 plus people got jobs from developer direction that didn't have degrees. Like I got it written down somewhere, not in front of me, but it was more than 20 people got a job in this time frame that didn't have a degree, right? And that's I'm not gonna well, we'll put myself in the back, but like that's kind of a big deal. Like imagine like Fido too. Fido used to work as a barista, and then now he's a very high paid senior software engineer, right? So what happened? What happened since then? Now on October 2nd, 2024. What do you think happened to the whole learn to code movement and just in all it was all of it, Cody? What do you think? I know we talked about it before, but
Yeah, I mean, I think it's basically just oversaturation of the market a little bit. Oversaturation for maybe not so qualified people, I should say, because I've even met myself some people that have had jobs that kind of got in on the same wave or a little bit after I did. That like, dog, I don't know if you should be doing this job, to be honest. Like, just straight up. Some people have had like multiple years experience in it, and some people were new, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But just some people just don't have the, I guess, initiative to figure problems out. But that's what I think the biggest contributing factor is a lot of people got into the job market all at the same time because there's a huge demand for it.
right.
And I think the industry was like, fuck, we don't have anybody to like fill any of these positions because we want to build all this new shit, right? Because
Right. And if you're
the economy
that
was being floated.
yeah, exactly. The economy was being floated. And I'm going to touch on this point like later on, but the economy was being like it was being leveraged up to like an absurd amount, right? We had all these startups, and a lot of people with startups would get like seed investors, and they would need like 20 developers to go and do some stuff, right? So they're not, and you were saying like people that probably weren't qualified. I mean, they're not going to find. Let's say you are a senior developer, you have really good skill. They might be able these like startups might be able to hire like or afford one of those guys, but the senior developers, they're going to want like 200K a year plus like dividends and equity in the company, all this other stuff. They can't afford a startup company can't afford like all 20 of their developers that salary, right? They're going to want to give them like 75, 100 or whatever. So and all the competition at the time was job hopping because they're like, holy fuck, like what happened to the economy? I can get like 30, 40, 50, sometimes 50 grand more just doing a lateral job hop, right? So I do think that the job market now has been overflooded due to all the over leveraging of things like a lot of these startups. I mean, even like FANG, like Facebook, Apple, Amazon, all that, they were over hiring too at the time, right? I mean, Tesla, a lot of big companies. And what we've been seeing now, guys, if you've been paying attention to the channel, like the previous stream that I just mentioned, applications to job postings have been like skyrocketing, right? Even though apparently we have a worker shortage. So what happened? The job market got overflowed, right? I also think that a lot of people from these other positions that might have like left, or when they started to say like, oh, you got to come into the office now, people are like, fuck that, I'm going to quit, look for another job. A lot of the layoffs as well, a lot of people competing. And I also just really think, and I watched that tech lead video. Did you watch that video?
I did, yeah.
But basically same topic we're talking about tonight. I think that the learn to code movement itself was already overinflated back before even the coup happened. So all these things together, I think, are kind of the cause of it, right? Max Needs says Cody equals beard goals.
Yes,
indeed. So do you think that now, or would you agree with this statement that I'm about to make? The market, it got flooded, and honestly, I think this is just a simple supply and demand issue right now.
Yeah, I agree. The market did get flooded, but so a company that I worked for also did layoffs. I think it was last year, maybe beginning of this year. But they didn't cut any of their good people. So I ended up finding out what happened with that. Pretty much there was a person that was a high level, I think it was like the CTO or something like that. Basically hired all of his buddies in to essentially drain the company of money and not really do any work. So they ended up laying off like 60 some people that he ended up hiring almost directly. So they were kind of forced to do it because we were not very competitive at the time anymore. And now, there wasn't as much money floating around to float these people that weren't doing anything. So
Sure, yeah.
because immediately after they got laid off, they hired like another 40 people. So,
Probably like one less pay, or people that could
maybe
actually do the job.
a little bit of both, I think. Like that's because that was the one thing. Like there was this whole like sad, sappy story about layoffs, but pretty much anyone that was like really good at their job or decent, um, they were fine.
Kept it.
The only people that got laid off were like people on pips or like people that just like didn't do anything. And I worked with some of those people that just didn't do anything, and I'm like, how are these guys even working here? But yeah, I think a lot of the layoffs had to do with that. Not saying all of them. Not saying if you got laid off, you're untalented. Like that's not what I'm saying. But I think they're trying to cull the herd a little bit, as far as that aspect goes. So yeah, a little bit over strength, but I don't think they're really laying off super talented people. To be honest.
Yeah.
But who knows?
To the supply and demand thing that I was talking about. So I believe that like I really don't think it's going to be as like toxic of an environment 3, 4, 5 years out from now trying to get a job as an engineer, because you guys, you got to think everything's automated, everything's computerized, everything's digitized nowadays. That's not going away. Every single company needs software in order to do whatever that company does, whether it's like a car manufacturer, which they need lots of software developers actually. Quite frankly, anything. Unless you're a painter, and then in that case, I remember Matt in one of his streams that made this argument. He's like, "Well, I'm a painter. We don't need to learn to code." Like, you don't need to learn to code, but whatever. I'm sure you're using something, whether it's your cell phone, to contact your customers or a website or whatever. Like,
I bet you're not cash only.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and yeah, in one way, shape, or form, when it comes down your pipeline of whatever business it is, software is going to be included, right? More and more things are getting digitized. I mean, more and more people are doing remote work. I think remote work is going to continue to be more accepted, even though right now I think they're trying to like you said earlier, call the herd a little bit. Yeah. Some of these companies are just trying to shear people off, but yeah. I do still think that is probably one of the best benefits of like being a developer and being a tech. However, some things that from the Tech Leads video, that some points that when I watched the video, I was like, dude, there's a lot of stuff I didn't even think about that I already knew and you knew too. We just didn't think about it being the case. Christian Soda says, good afternoon. What up, dude? Good to see you. Max says, a little bit of competitive pressure never hurt anyone. No, exactly. It's kind of like it's evolution, right? Hello to you too, Kyle. Hello. The market definitely got flooded. And okay, even now, so I won't get into like stories of like Zoomers like crying, but have you seen like there is a Reddit. I don't know which Reddit it is. I forgot the name. There's a subreddit for people trying to get jobs as programmers. And have you seen that?
Yeah, it's just a pity fest basically at this point.
We find it.
But yeah, and that's the thing is like people were trying to like I read a few posts from that Reddit, and it's just doomer vibes all throughout that Reddit, that subreddit. But it's honestly, I feel like people like that are just there to wallow in like self-pity and stuff like that. They're the ones that are just going to quit and give up on the whole software developer, like IT side of things. And then the market's going to slowly start to correct itself back to what it was. Like all this stuff kind of works in cycles. You know what I mean? Like even like microcycles inside of IT, right? Now the whole hype is like AI. Last year and the year before it was like Web3. And it's kind of the same thing in the job market and the overall like financial market. Usually IT, when the economy is good, IT is the first one to thrive, but it's also the first one to suffer when the economy ain't doing so hot. So you got to take that into account too. Like that was something I knew getting into this. Like I understood that IT very much works in waves, but so did the automotive industry where I came from. Like I bet 2008 was not a very good time to work for an automotive company.
Yeah.
And then it kind of like made a resurgence. It's probably like 2012 to 2016 into today. Like we're still having a worker shortage and that aspect of like a technician shortage. But I mean, that's a whole nother topic for another day. But everything works in cycles when it comes to that, and IT is definitely not immune to that. So it's more of like, what are you doing to prepare yourself for when that cycle comes? You know what I mean? So that's more along the lines of my school of thought anyway. But
Yeah. I agree, man. Uh, the tech lead in his video, the biggest thing that I took away from that was he's like he says something along the lines of, hey, there's two classes of workers, right? There's blue collar workers, there's white collar workers, right? And he said now it appears to be there's like this third class, and he called them the independents, right?
Yeah.
And he was honest. It consists of like grifters, scammers.
Yeah.
He didn't say OnlyFans people, but throw that
Pretty
in there
much.
as well.
Yeah.
And all of these people, you can make a lot of money on the internet, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I did really good just from DD in 1 year's time frame. It's very possible. I mean, it's especially if you're going to be a dishonest person. I'm sure you could make like we know some people.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, we know some people. So like you can definitely make a lot of money off the internet being a grifter or like whatever, right? Why is that appealing? Well, it's appealing because one, you can work remote, right? You can work anywhere. You're going to have this independent sense of freedom about it. Number two, you can make a lot of money. You can make a lot of money fast. And those are probably two of the biggest things that I was thinking most people wanted to do the whole learn to code thing for in general, right? You can get rich as a programmer. I mean, ask Max Dignitas over there with all of his company stonks, but it's just going to take a little bit longer. Like it may take you 10 years to do so. Whereas like, you can make the fast, easy money being like a grifter or an OnlyFans person
dude.
overnight.
I can only like every time I see some kind of like investment guru or someone like got really deep into real estate, it's always some ex-FANG company guy that made like $300,000 a year and was like, yeah, pulled myself up from the bootstraps working at fucking Netflix or Apple or Google or whatever. And it's like, dog, you have like the ultimate IT street cred and you got paid like $300,000 a year, bro.
Yeah.
Like, good on you.
Nice
like, well done
or whatever.
Yeah. Well done, sir. But it's not like you were a waiter at Denny's and then worked your way up to being a real estate mogul. But they're even transitioning to like that grifter type, independent class. So that's kind of like their next big thing too, which, he did bring up a good point that I do think that's like legitimate. I don't necessarily think it is on the upswing, however, because I feel like a lot of people are understanding what the fuck is going on. At least for me personally, I feel like every influencer I look at, I'm being sold something, dude. Like immediately, like no, like you don't even take me out to dinner first. You just try to fucking sell it straight to me, right? Which yeah, sure, whatever. But it's just like, man, it's getting tiring, dude. I feel like the market is like peak, and plus, not to mention, like what happens when there's not excess money going around.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there isn't any right now, right? Speaking of guys, developerdirection.com. But in all seriousness though, I lost my email list, guys. I had to like make a community post about it before I actually changed the code of the website. The code of the website is now changed. So just you go to the website, the email list, the sign up for the email list will actually work now. Thank you, Josh, for fixing it. Or you're welcome, Josh. But yeah, dude. I mean, I think everybody sees it, knows it. And here's my conclusion on what happened in the Learn to Code movement. And especially so with what we had just talked about. I don't think that people actually really wanted to learn to code. I think people just wanted to be a part of that, like the independent type of class people where you can like work remote, get good pay, kind of like have a relatively nice lifestyle, like, I mean, you have a pretty nice lifestyle, Cody. I won't speak for myself. I know Max Denitas and Kyle W does as well. And like all people I mentioned work in tech. And I think that too many people didn't want to learn to code because they wanted to learn to code. They just wanted, to get good money and to be remote and kind of like, fuck off on the beach or whatever. Right. And two, people started seeing, wait a second, this is actually kind of hard. Sometimes it can get really hard. Right. And it actually is even harder to learn and take some time. Right. And they're looking at like, oh my God, these people are like grifting and they're doing OnlyFans. I can make way more money without having to study or learn or do anything hard.
Yeah, dude.
Instead. And
yeah, because when you take a boot camp that like teaches you React, exactly what I did. You're like, oh, dude, this stuff's super easy, and yeah, that stuff is super easy. And then you get into the woods, and then you're like, nah, shit. Like React is really easy, but what about everything else that I have to learn? You know what I mean? Like, it's that was like my biggest thing too. I started out as a React developer and now I'm doing infrastructure, which is completely fucking different. And I had to basically learn a whole new skill set of what I'm doing. So it was, but I like doing that. I like learning about different stuff. A lot of people don't, most people don't, like, they could care less about like coding or anything IT. They're just like, I just want to sip Muay Thais on the beach, not Muay Thais, Mai Tais, whatever. I want to sip some alcohol on the beach and fuck off in my Zoom meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think, he was saying in his video that he thinks like it's just not as cool anymore because you think about being a wage slave going to an office. I mean, I still don't know I still do not know to this day any developers who are not remote. I'm sure that might change. It won't for me. I'd rather do something else. But like I would argue that like statistically that's not the case. Like it looks like more and more people are trying to do that based off of the amount of people applying to these jobs, right? I think a lot of Zoomers that are graduating college are like, oh, there's no law forcing people to have like some kind of license in order to code. Which off topic here real quick. When I was in college, I had I had a computer science ethics class I had to take. And like one of the like things that we had to study was like someone important. It might have actually been one of the Apple founders. It might have been Wozniak, but I don't know for sure if this was him, but somebody important in the tech industry, a forefather, I would say, predicted that in the future, you're going to require like a specific like license in order to have to write code because like people could like airplanes could fall out of the sky that was the whole premise of it. Like airplanes could fall out of the sky and could kill people. And so, but that's not the case, right? Yeah. I mean, it made it, from what I remember, it made a lot of good arguments, but that's not the case yet, right? So I think a lot of these Zoomers are like graduating college, they're jobless, or they could go and work at like a $15 an hour like corporate job where they're going to be in a wage cage, right? And they're like, I don't want to do that. I can get this job as a programmer, so let me just go use ChatGPT to like apply to all these jobs because it seems like the job applicants. I mean, there's no way that this many people are applying to these kind of jobs still. After all the layoffs, I'm sure a lot of the people already had found jobs, if not like are just doing whatever. But the job applications are still, I don't think they're as bad, but they're still pretty bad, right?
They're still pretty bad.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if we're gonna have like a future where it's just like programmers and like grifters. Is that what the future is gonna look like? I don't know.
No, there's still gonna be plumbers and electricians. The trade jobs aren't going anywhere, dude. Like trade jobs, don't be a mechanic.
Okay. I would agree. The trade job's not going to go anywhere. But do you think like Susie in HR is going to still be like that's the thing? Like
only when the economy's good. I don't think they're going to be springing to hire more HR people when the economy's not good.
I hate to use the term, but I'll use Ryan from Elevate Cyber's term, pencil pushers. Like,
yeah,
if they're not really doing anything, then you're not going to have any like.
Yeah, it's those people that don't. I'm not saying it's not a skill. Okay, I realize you need people skills in HR. I get it. But I'm saying like a hard skill that is sellable. Like you having people skills is not really sellable outside of like sales, maybe. But actually having a hard skill that you can, fall back on, essentially. Be like, hey, like might not be good with people, but I can code your whole fucking infrastructure if you want. So, which is what people are going to need eventually,
Agreed. All right. Well, I have to get somewhere soon. Cody, do you have any final thoughts for the people?
Final thoughts. I would say now is the time. If you're still interested in coding, now is the time to really knuckle down and learn as much as you possibly can, and not just surface level, like deep dive and learn actual computer science. Because I've been doing it myself recently too. Like, opened a whole new whole new whole new rabbit hole for me to go down. Right, and just learning those fundamental things that a lot of the boot camps and a lot of like learn to code quick courses kind of like gloss over a little bit.
Yeah,
Um,
a little. I would say more
because
than a
that's
little.
really, yeah, and that's gonna set you apart really differently than everyone else that's trying to apply that's not doing that kind of stuff. That and reach out to people who are posting jobs, because pretty much every job that I've been applying for, just for market research purposes, everyone that I've reached out to has actually gotten back to me and at least spoke to me in person over the phone. So, still not anything serious yet, but those are the only ones that actually got back to me. So I don't think people are actually reaching out
As
anymore.
opposed to just
So
what applying to like postings on LinkedIn and
yeah,
stuff.
just mass applying and submitting a resume, dude. Because how else are you going to stand out amongst 3,000
I agree.
resumes, dude?
We were talking about
You're
this the last
not.
two like Sunday night webinars that we had, right? Like
Yeah.
the whole approach. We're gonna start trying to change the whole approach of what we tell people to do, because our shotgun method from like 2.5 years ago worked great.
Everyone's doing it.
It worked
Yeah.
great back then, but just like the whole learn to code movement has blown up. I mean, dude, we gave away the sauce, dude. We gave away the sauce.
Yeah,
Now
we
everyone's
did.
doing the same thing. So yeah, I agree with that. I think we might have to do the old teacher's pet GOG 3000 approach now from now on, at least for the time being, right? And we'll adjust it when we can. But I feel the same as what Cody said. I think now is the time to buckle down. And I get random DMs sometimes, in even messages on like Telegram, people just like asking random questions, right? And I got a DM on Telegram a couple days ago, and the guy was like, "Hey Josh, like what do you think how is the IT industry currently when it comes to like getting a job as in coding?" He said, and uh, what else did he say? I'm looking at it right here. So if you were to start your career in coding, how would you go about it in the current climate? And I was talking to this guy, going back and forth with him a little bit, and I was like, "Do you know how to code yet?" He's like, "No, not yet." And so I literally told him, like, don't even worry about applying to any of these jobs until you're like a 4 out of a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 at programming. Like, especially right now, because you're just going to be wasting your time trying to like do this whole shotgun job application approach. When everyone else and their mom is doing that, it's all blown up. Like, learn to code. And that way, when you can get the revised Teacher Pet GOG 3000 approach and you can actually get into an interview, then you're going to be in a much better position. And I think right now, unless you're at least a 4 out of 10 on coding, anything else is a waste of time, in my opinion. I mean, it could be done synthetically, right? I mean, like, we can do the old
You can chat
earpiece,
GPT it.
chat
Yeah.
GPT, earpiece during the interview kind of thing. I mean, it can be done,
Yeah.
but it's only going to float you like
Now,
3 months of the job. You'd be fucked after that.
now is a good time to start developing curiosity into your programming. So instead of just learning React, because everyone knows React now, learn how everything in React works. Maybe not. Don't pigeonhole yourself straight into React, but just learn how some of this stuff works underneath the hood that you don't get to see. Even JavaScript itself like obfuscates a lot of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, try to implement something in JavaScript that's already built in, and you'll be pretty surprised how difficult that actually is under the hood. And it gives you a really firm understanding. So develop that curiosity in programming and actually learn something about it, versus just like doing the next big course. Like, oh yeah, I know React, I know Angular now, I know Go, but I was like, do you really know it? Do you know it?
I would agree. Max needs is reactive programming. Yep. It's kind of what's going on right now. Just a bunch of reactive programming. No pun intended, Max, but literally. But yeah, guys, now it's time to learn. For lack of better words, don't be pussy. Don't give up. If you are getting ahead of yourself right now, this is not like a year and a half ago. That was the time to get ahead of yourself and get a job coding.
Yeah.
Remote at 100K a year without knowing any code, right? But it wasn't the case 2 years before that, and now it's not the case anymore. Okay, so you have to be patient, you have to be tactful, you have to be tasteful about it. And hey, if you want to learn to code still, I mean, I still think it's a great. Apparently, a lot of other people still think it's a great thing to do too. But you just need to go about it in a different approach and maybe a little bit less grifty of approach. That's all.
Yeah.
Chad Donor Schwantz, this dude, I love this dude. Just in time for the end. It's over for me, boys. It's over for us too, dude. All right,
It's
guys.
over. Yeah.
We are out of here. Bye.